Time travel. Interesting questions it presents.
He is the Tinfoil Chef, a man with a video love.
Hey YouTube, how's it going? Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things I've been doing a lot of recently is reading. Because, well, with my teeth and jaw hurting as much as they have, that has been one way to kind of take my mind off of it. Doesn't require me paying attention too much except the words, and the thing I have with reading is I get very into a good book when I'm reading, and so it's a good kind of an escape. And since due to all this pain and agony in my jaw and whatnot, there's been a lot of times when I wanted to record game videos and such, but haven't really been able to, because I don't think anybody wants to watch a game video where the commentary includes a lot of oh, and stuff like that. I wouldn't want to watch something like that, would you? Of course not. Anyway, some of those stories, Star Trek novels, I'll have you know, involved a bit of time travel here and there, as that show occasionally does. And that got me to thinking, suppose you could travel back in time to have a talk with your 10-year-old self. To have a talk with you at the age of 10. Now, further, let's just take this a step or two further. 2 steps. Number 1, in this thing, you could tell your younger self 5 things. You could say 5 things to your younger self, and you would be guaranteed that your younger self would believe what you told them. That's important. And that they would take appropriate action based on what you told them. Now, given that, what would you tell your younger self? What are the 5 most important things you would tell your younger self? And of course, since I come up with the question, I'm answering it myself too, because this is a good one. I like this. Now, number 5 is one that I think a lot of people would put at number 1, but I'm putting it at number 5 because while I consider it to be an important thing, it's not as important as the other things. Number 5. As early as possible, as often as possible, invest in IBM, Intel, Microsoft, Apple, Motorola, and YouTube. Abso-freaking-lutely. Now bear in mind, when I was 10 years old, it was 1969. IBM was around. I'm not sure about Intel. Microsoft wasn't. Apple wasn't. Motorola was around. YouTube, of course, nobody had ever heard of. And so on. And so this means getting into these things, like imagine if you could have bought stock in Microsoft when it was $1 stock. Back when it first showed up on the stock exchange at $1 a share. Imagine that. Where would you be sitting now? Yeah. So, and along with that is the advice to never use the principal. Only spend the profit. Yeah. Okay, number 4. The 4th most important thing that I would tell my younger self is to learn everything there is to know about computers. To learn computers. And to become a computer programmer. When I was 10 years old in 1969, nobody had computers except big business, universities, and the military and government. And computers were huge. They take up whole rooms and stuff like that. If you could imagine taking a computer from today back into the 1960s, you would blow their minds big time. Yeah. And so into the 1970s, as I was getting into high school in the 1970s, learning computer programming, becoming a computer programmer in the late 1970s, early 1980s. Ooh, could have wrote my own ticket, especially with the profits from all those investments, some of which would take 30 years to do, but yeah, still. Okay, number 3. The third most important thing I would have told my 10-year-old self, given the opportunity. Quit being a gluttonous sugar fiend. And don't ever start smoking, because then you won't have to try to quit. Because being the sugar fiend and glutton, you're setting yourself up for being an overweight adult onset diabetic. And that is a royal pain in the butt. Among other things. Yeah. Similarly, number 2, the second most important thing I would have told my 10-year-old self, or that I would tell my 10-year-old self. Brush your freaking teeth every single day of your life. No excuses, no exceptions. Yeah. My teeth have been the source of uncounted hours and weeks and months of pain over the last 10 years. And believe me, it's my own fault. I didn't take care of them. And finally, the number 1 thing, the single most important thing I would tell my 10-year-old self, if I was going to be believed and have it acted on, is, you know that girl that you're looking at in school and dreaming about? Stop looking and dreaming and start talking. Because if you don't talk, if you don't try, you're never going to know. And you sit there for 40 years later wondering, what if? Yeah. I was a shy kid. Talking to people was not something I liked to do at all, ever. And I was terrified of girls about that age. What 10 or 12-year-old kid isn't? Yeah. All right, that's my top 5. Now it's your turn. This ought to be good. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I'm out of here.
He is the Tinfoil Chef, and the frog just doesn't give a shit.
Hello all, it's Monday, December the 7th. I'm glad all this talk about time travel is just hypothetical. I shudder to think of the potential harm that could result from all that messing about with the timeline. The previous question of the day: if psychics are real, why do they never win the lottery? Today's question of the day: what are the 5 most important things you would tell your younger self? The dirty word of the day: cloister.
He is the Tinfoil Chef.